Jua, the mystery of the Chupacabra, the creature no one can find. Introduction. The Chupacabra is one of the most enigmatic cryptids of our time. This elusive creature is said to stalk the night, attacking livestock and leaving behind mysterious evidence of its existence. From Puerto Rico to Texas, from Mexico to the jungles of Cuba, countless eyewitnesses have come forward with chilling stories of encounters with this terrifying beast. Despite extensive investigations, no one has ever managed to capture definitive proof of its existence. What is the Chupacabra? Is it a myth, a misidentified animal, or something far more sinister? This collection of accounts explores various encounters with the Chupacabra, detailing first-hand experiences from those who claim to have seen it. Chapter 1. The first victim in Puerto Rico in 1995, farmer Carlos Mendoza was awakened in the middle of the night by a strange commotion near his barn. The sound was unlike anything he had ever heard before. High-pitched screeches mixed with deep, guttural growls. Grabbing his flashlight, he rushed outside, his heart pounding. As he reached the barn, he was met with a gruesome sight. His goats lay motionless on the ground, their bodies eerily intact except for 2 puncture wounds on their necks. There was no blood, none on the animals, none on the ground. It was as if something had drained them completely. Shocked and terrified, Carlos called his neighbors, who arrived shortly after. The same stories began surfacing all over Puerto Rico. Farmers and ranchers reported similar scenes: dead livestock with no blood, mysterious wounds, and eerie, shadowy figures disappearing into the night. The legend of the Chupacabra was born. Local authorities dismissed the reports as the work of wild dogs or a form of mass hysteria, but those who had seen the aftermath firsthand knew otherwise. Some farmers reported glimpsing a hunched creature lurking in the distance, its glowing eyes piercing through the darkness. Livestock losses continued, and soon even pets went missing. Strangely, the attacks seemed to follow a pattern, migrating from one village to another, as if the creature was hunting in specific territories before moving on. Chapter 2. The Texas Ranch Attack. By 2010, reports of Chupacabra sightings had spread beyond Puerto Rico and into the United States. One of the most chilling accounts came from a small ranch in Texas, owned by Martha Rodriguez. For weeks, Martha had noticed that her chickens were going missing, their numbers dwindling in the dead of night. Thinking it was coyotes or stray dogs, she set up traps and reinforced her coop. But one night, everything changed. It was just past midnight when she heard a terrifying screech from her backyard. She grabbed a flashlight and ran outside, only to see a dark, hunched figure scurrying away on 2 legs. Its eyes glowed red in the darkness, and its body appeared covered in rough, leathery skin. Too frightened to follow it, Martha waited until sunrise before inspecting her property. What she found sent shivers down her spine. 3 of her chickens lay lifeless, with the same puncture wounds on their necks. Once again, no blood remained. Desperate for answers, she set up a camera the next night. What she captured was chilling: a small, gaunt figure creeping near the chicken coop. It had a long snout, sharp claws, and moved with an unnatural, jerky gait. But the most disturbing part was the way it seemed to sense the camera. At one point it stopped, turned its head, and stared directly into the lens before scuttling away into the darkness. Chapter 3. The Hunter's Testimony. James Patterson, an experienced hunter from South Carolina, had heard the stories about the Chupacabra, but never believed them until he had an encounter of his own. One autumn evening, James set up night vision cameras in a wooded area known for strange livestock deaths. He left a deer carcass as bait and sat in his blind, waiting. Hours passed, and then, just after 3 a.m., he heard something moving in the underbrush. The motion sensors on his cameras triggered, and he turned his rifle in the direction of the noise. What he saw defied all logic. A creature, no larger than a medium-sized dog, but walking on two legs, crept toward the carcass. Its skin looked unnatural, gray, almost reptilian. It had a hunched back, spiny ridges running down its spine, and long clawed fingers. James froze. Before he could even react, the creature turned its head and stared directly at him with glowing red eyes. In an instant, it bolted into the woods, moving at an unnatural speed. Chapter 4. The Lost Hiker's Encounter. In 2017, a group of hikers in Argentina experienced a terrifying encounter deep in the jungle. While trekking through an unmarked trail, they came across a set of strange, three-toed footprints in the mud. Thinking they belonged to an unknown animal, they followed them for several miles. As night fell, they set up camp, but eerie noises surrounded them, chittering sounds, like something whispering just beyond the tree line. One of the hikers, Diego, left the tent to relieve himself. Moments later, the others heard him scream. They rushed outside and found him trembling, pointing at the bushes. "It was watching me," he gasped. Its eyes, they glowed. It was crouched, just a few feet away. Terrified, the group packed up and left immediately. But throughout the night, they felt an eerie presence following them. When they finally reached civilization, they checked their cameras. One blurry image showed a hunched figure lurking in the shadows of the trees. Chupacabra. Chapter 5. The Mexican Farmer's Defense. In 2022, a farmer in rural Mexico claimed to have successfully driven off a chupacabra using a combination of bright lights and loud noises. After losing several goats to an unknown predator, he set up motion-activated floodlights and loudspeakers playing high-frequency sounds. One night, he was woken by the sound of the speakers activating. Rushing outside with a shotgun, he caught a glimpse of a strange creature in the light. It was thin, with grayish skin, and stood upright like a person, but its eyes reflected the light in an unnatural way. The creature let out a piercing screech before disappearing into the darkness. Since setting up his defense system, the attacks on his farm stopped. To this day, he remains convinced that the chupacabra is real and that it can be repelled with the right strategy. Chapter 6. The Search for Answers. Despite modern technology and surveillance, the chupacabra remains as elusive as ever. Some believe it is a new, undiscovered species, perhaps a mutated coyote or a blood-drinking bat. Others theorize that it is an extraterrestrial being abandoned on Earth. Skeptics argue that all sightings can be explained by misidentified animals, disease-ridden wildlife, or hoaxes. But the stories keep coming. New reports emerge each year from different parts of the world: Brazil, Chile, the Philippines, and even parts of Europe. Until definitive proof emerges, the mystery of the chupacabra will continue to haunt the minds of those who dare to search for the truth.